This past weekend, Luminosity Makes Big Moves 2024 went down in New York City, and I've already covered the top 8 extensively in yesterday's video. But as many of you are very aware of, just like nearly every major, some of the most discussion-worthy topics from this tournament weren't from the top 8 at all. Instead, this tournament was known as Upset City, perhaps due to the slightly controversial seeding that I covered in my pre-tournament analysis of this very tourney. Today we'll be going over every single major upset that made this tournament a living nightmare for anyone who got sent into the losers bracket, where killer after killer awaited them. Just like I normally do, for this video we'll be going over solitary upsets first, then go into upset runs, and lastly go over any upsets that caused a top 8 finish. Although in this case there's really only 1 or 2 players that applies to. However, we're going to make one small exception to this format that I've just laid out, and it's going to be here at the very beginning. Before we get into that though, if you want to support me monetarily, you can do so by using links to my Patreon or channel memberships linked in the description below. With that out of the way, let's get started by talking about the biggest upset in the entire tournament and the main one that got everyone talking. It's time we talk about Dabuz. By the way, the upset thread that I'll be referencing today is courtesy of Echo Stats, link to their Twitter in the description below. Dabuz came into LMBM 2024 as the 4th seed, and in my pre-tourney analysis, I predicted Dabuz underplacing this seed. Why? Well, because he's been practicing solo Steve for a hot minute now, and so had the potential to be underpracticed with his other characters at this Steve banned tournament. And yeah, if you hadn't heard, Dabuz is trying his hardest to pick up Steve, as he's probably tired of being the best player to never win a major. Haters were quick to ask, oh, so when Dabuz does it, it's cool? To which they were met with an emphatic, yes, it is cool when Dabuz does it. But that may have contributed towards Dabuz's fate at LMBM, as this was one of the only recent majors that had Steve banned. But I'll stop beating around the bush now. When I said Dabuz would underperform his seed, I said that in the context of the other top 8 seeds, not this. So you guys probably have a lot of questions. Well, Dabuz started off the weekend fine, winning his first 2 sets and making it to the qualifier to make it out of pools through winner's side. On the other side of this qualifier was Spritzy, a Toon Link main who had just gotten off a great win over Fawn 3-1 and now went up versus Dabuz. And to everyone's surprise, Spritzy defeated Dabuz in a close Game 5 set. Now, this VOD was recorded on a hand cam and I got it from Esam's channel where he analyzed this set in depth. But yeah, Dabuz ended up losing to Spritzy Game 5, a win that was good for an upset factor of 11, one of the highest that has ever been obtained in Smash, with the record for the highest being 14. And now we have to get into a topic that's a little bit more serious, because as was seen by nearly everyone in the area at the time, Dabuz was very upset about this loss. He spiked his controller into the ground not once, but twice. There's no video of this or anything, but it's been verified by tons of people who witnessed it, and it actually went on to cause a little bit of controversy and discussion. I'll let you all decide on your own how you feel about a top player spiking their controller at a major tournament, but for today, I only have this to say. I feel really bad for Dabuz. He's given so much to Smash, put so much of himself into this game, and for what? To never win a major? To come up so close so many times? The largest tourney he's won was barely not considered a major. Dabuz is the player that's gone through maybe the most heartbreak and hardships among Ultimate's top players, and the one time that he's ever lost his cool and gotten angry, he's made into the Twitter villain of the day? Listen, obviously he shouldn't have done it, duh. But I really do get the sense that this anger was building up from a lot more than just this set. I just really hope he's doing okay. But on that note, Dabuz went on a small losers run to make it out of pools, but then got upset again by Justice, the Min in a 3-1 set for a final placement of 49th. This win was good for an upset factor of 10 for Justice, and Justice is a player we'll actually go over later, as this win was just 1, part of a huge run from Justice. As for Spritzy, after losing to Smirk and Jaja, Spritzy would end LMBM at 65th as the 132nd seed. Spritzy is quickly making a case as the best NA Toon Link, but only time will tell if that'll hold true or not. So yeah, Dabuz being upset by Spritzy, spiking his controller, and finishing 49th was the largest storyline outside of the top 8. That's why I wanted to cover it first, as it was by far the most notable thing that we'll be covering today. Other than that though, today's video will follow our normal format, and Spritzy's win was a solitary upset, so I suppose we're not really breaking formula at all. With that said though, let's go over the other notable solitary upsets at LMBM 2024. Real quick, I'm about to say the words upset factor a lot, so allow me to give a slight explanation on what upset factor is for those of you who might not know. Upset factor is a mathematical equation that takes into account how far a player is seeded away from victory. Take Dabuz, the 4th seed. As seeded, Dabuz is 4 rounds away from a victory if you include a bracket reset. Spritzy, the 132nd seed, was expected to finish 15 rounds away from a victory. Take 15, subtract 4, and you have your upset factor of 11. And yes, this does have the potential to be extremely confusing for people who don't like math. If you would just like to take my word on it from now on, I won't judge you. With that established, let's get into the upsets. Oh, and one more thing, we're going to be doing these in chronological order. Alright, let's get started. Donkey Kong main Gamer, the 171st seed, upsets Armadillo, the 43rd seed, 3-0, an upset factor 4 victory. Shady, the 163rd seed, upsets Kobe, the 35th seed, in a 3-0, for an upset factor of 4. In losers bracket, Ness main Tony Pajamas, the 107th seed, defeated Armadillo 3-0, with Armadillo being double upset for a final placement of 129th as the 43rd seed. Ike main Babino, the 198th seed, defeated No Tag in a 3-0, eliminating the 70th seed at 129th for an upset factor 3 victory. Kansas City Pac-Man main Rocky, the 83rd seed, defeats Doorstop, the 46th seed, in a 3-1 set for an upset factor 2 win. Zelda main Katy Perry, the 421st seed, defeats Blazing Pasta, the 92nd seed, 3-0, for an upset factor 5 win. Blazing Pasta would later go on to DQ from losers. Ice Climbers and Chic co-main Dakura W43, the 233rd seed, defeats Aaron, the 24th seed, in a 3-0. This win was one of the largest in pools, good for an upset factor of 7. Ghost Toad, the 800th seed, defeats Aaron, the 96th seed, 3-0 for an upset factor of 7. However, this set needs an asterisk next to it. You see, if you thought this was the Mii Sword Fighter main Aaron from North Dakota, you'd be wrong. It's actually just some other player with the same tag. However, it appears that the LMBM TOs made the exact same error and gave this player a super high seeding, thinking that they were the Aaron from North Dakota. So when this other Aaron ended up going 0-2 as the 96th seed, it was reported as this huge upset loss, when really this was just a seeding error caused by 2 players sharing the same tag. Still, it is really funny looking back at it. Robin main Synergy, the 97th seed, defeats MK Big Boss, the 32nd seed, in a 3-1 set, good for an upset factor of 4. Mega Man main Blitzy Luigi, the 145th seed, defeats the previously mentioned Aaron 3-0, an upset factor 6 win that resulted in Aaron finishing 97th as the 24th seed. Chunky Kong, the 48th seed, defeats 17th seed Jackal in a Game 5 set, an upset factor of 2. Speaking of Jackal, Regalo, the Lucas main, would defeat Jackal in yet another Game 5 set as the 72nd seed, eliminating Jackal at 65th as the 17th seed, an upset factor of 4. Zelda main Free K-Flock, the 130th seed, defeats 47th seed Mugen in a Game 5 set, an upset factor of 4. And lastly, Game & Watch main Monty, the 40th seed, defeated 16th seed Quid in a 3-1 set, a win good for an upset factor of 3, which eliminated Quid at 33rd. And that does it for the solitary upsets that didn't result in any huge runs. As you can see, there were quite a lot of them and not a lot of VODs to go with them. Again, LMBM was known as Upset City for a very good reason. Now it's time for us to go over some big upset runs that didn't result in a top 8 finish but were tremendous placements for each of these players. Surprisingly enough, we actually have a lot to go over. First up, we have the Kazuya prodigy Wilds from Kentucky, who came into the event as the 113th seed and ended up placing 33rd. Wilds' best 2 wins are his pair of 3-0s over Lukewarm, previously known as Kirby Kid, and Quid, the player famous for winning LMBM 2022. However, a Game 5 loss to Chunky Kong and then a 3-1 loss to Mudace sealed Wilds' fate at 33rd. Speaking of Lukewarm, the King K. Rool legend also made a big run here at LMBM. Coming into the event as the 80th seed, Lukewarm ended up placing 49th, getting 2 insane Game 5 victories over both Lucky and MK Big Boss, 2 phenomenal wins. However, 3-0 losses to Wilds and Regalo ended Lukewarm's run early. The next player on our list is Quinn, who may be the lowest seed we cover in this segment, coming into the event as the 159th seed and placing 25th. Quinn first got a great Game 5 win over Ice Knight before moving on and defeating VV3O and Stand Proud, aka Johnny, in another Game 5. And I know that that's supposed to be a Jujutsu Kaisen reference, but when I hear Stand Proud, all I can think of is the JoJo's opening. However, losses to Spargo and Capitancito ended Quinn's run at 25th. Our next player is MFA the Olimar, who got a solid 33rd as the 76th seed, defeating Atreus, the player who got 5th place at Gamal 2023, in a 3-1, as well as defeating Peebnut in a close Game 5 set. After this though, MFA would lose to Sinji 3-1 and Justice in a close Game 5 set. Speaking of Justice though, our next player is Justice, the 100th seed who ended up placing 25th. After losing early on to Mr. E 3-0, Justice went on one of the best losers runs of the tournament, defeating MD and Dabuz 3-1 and MFA in a Game 5 set before losing 3-0 to Light to place 25th. This is one of the best placements of recent times for a Minmin player not from Japan. Next up, we have Greninja main Anarchy, who came into the event as the 56th seed and ended up placing 17th. On the way there, Anarchy defeated Elijahman 3-1, Mudace in an insane Game 5 upset, and lastly Nico 3-1. However, Anarchy would sadly lose to Meister 3-0 and lose the runback versus Mudace 3-1 to place just outside the top 16. The last 3 players we're going over all made top 16 and had career-defining runs here at LMBM 2024. First up is Oolong, the Wii Fit main I recently named the best Wii Fit in the world over in my YouTube Shorts series. Oolong seemed to prove me right at LMBM, placing 13th as the 74th seed, getting wins over Demon 3-0, Soul Arts 3-1, as well as Guy and Capitancito, both in 3-0 victories to make it into top 16, before losing to MK Leo 3-1 and Tilde 3-0. Our next player is Web JP, who made yet another insane 9th place finish here at LMBM as the 28th seed, furthering Web's case as the best Sheik in the world. Web made big moves here at LMBM by defeating Juan P 3-2, Gen 3-1, as well as Light in a close Game 5 set and Cola in a 3-0, getting the run back from LMMM 2023. Unfortunately, just like at LMMM, right when it seems that Web JP is about to make top 8 at a major, a -2 matchup pops up right before top 8. Last time it was Meister's Game & Watch, and this time it was Sinji's Pac-Man, who defeated Web JP in a close Game 5 set. After this, Web dropped into losers and defeated Nico 3-0 before losing to Spargo for 9th place, probably the roughest draw anyone could have asked for. Web JP has gone on record to say that Pac-Man is Sheik's worst matchup, worse than Steve or Game & Watch, and so it's really heartbreaking to see Web gatekept from yet another top 8. But still, it's a great performance nonetheless, especially with defeating Light and Cola. And lastly, we have the aforementioned Sinji, who truly had an insane run at LMBM, placing 9th as the 44th seed. On the way there, Sinji defeated Jja 3-0, MVD in a close Game 5 set, MFA 3-1, and lastly Web JP in one last Game 5 to make it all the way to winners quarterfinals. However, once here, Sinji would lose back-to-back sets to SkyJ 3-0 and Tilde 3-1 for a final placement of 9th after an insane run. Sinji, with this placement, has made a strong case for the best Pac-Man in America, but for me personally, my heart will always belong to Rocky on that front. Now that we've finished that, we need to go over players who made insane upset runs and placed within the top 8. But funnily enough, there's not much to go over, as every single top 8 finisher was seeded to be there other than 2 players. The first of these 2 is Tilde, who placed 7th as the 19th seed. And while I've gone over his run in yesterday's video, allow me to briefly recap. Tilde got wins over Alo, Rocky, Anathema, and Beast Mode Paul, going Game 5 versus BMP and Alo, defeating Rocky 3-0, and defeating Anathema 3-1. With a loss to Tweak in a close Game 5 set, Tilde actually went on to defeat Oolong 3-0 and Sinji 3-1, 2 players that we mentioned earlier, before making it into top 8 from loser's side and losing to Meister 3-1, a truly unfortunate matchup to get as Falco. And the last player that we're covering today is SkyJ, who came into the event as the 20th seed and placed 5th in the end. On the way to top 8, SkyJ defeated Henry Luma and Slingshot 3-0, Cola in a Game 5 set, Jazo 3-0, and lastly Sinji in yet another 3-0 to make top 8 from winner's side. However, a Game 5 loss to Sonics and a 3-1 loss to Spargo, the two best in all of NA, dashed SkyJ's hopes at 5th place. Luminosity Makes Big Moves 2024 was an insane tournament, rife with upsets aplenty and so much craziness to go over. However, for all that we've said about this tournament, this was only one half of the bigger puzzle this past weekend. As all of the hype and attention has circled around LMBM, it's important to remember that Umebura SP10 went down in Japan at the exact same time. And now that we've covered LMBM and its upsets, Wednesday and Thursday will be the exact same thing, but instead on the other side of the globe, looking at Umebura SP10's top 8 and its electrifying upset bracket. If you're excited for that, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out. But for now, that's going to be it for today's video. Before I go, shoutout goes to my patrons Seth Laster, Frosco223, Logan S, and Percy Palm, as well as my tier 2 patrons Iltis and Diamond Blaze. Additionally, shoutout my YouTube members Stormtrooper, Locosoko, Diarrhea, DJ Jr., Defective, Orangabang, Fan of, Boston R, Iltis, and my tier 2 members Mike G and Wu-Tang Forever. Lastly, extra special shoutout goes to my tier 3 patron Ocean Man, who says Rister Mice is sorry for playing Min Min. If you want to support me using any of these methods, links are in the description below. Tomorrow, I'll be covering the top 8 of Umebura SP10, but until then, I've been Mr. Mice, and thank you all so very much for watching.